reflective, calm, and emotionally intelligent. Have you ever been told that you overthink everything? That you spend too much time analyzing things that others seem to brush off without a second thought? Pause. Maybe you lie awake at night, replaying a conversation from days ago, not because you regret it, but because you're trying to understand it. What if I told you that this so-called overthinking might actually be a sign of something profound, something that reveals how your brain is wired to explore, question, and connect at a deeper level than most people ever will? Beat. This isn't just imagination. Psychology backs it up. I remember when I first realized I might be a deep thinker. I was in college, sitting in a cafe, watching people talk and laugh. Everyone seemed so effortlessly engaged, but my mind kept drifting, thinking about why we crave connection, why small talk feels empty, and why silence feels meaningful. I used to think something was wrong with me, that I was disconnected from the world. But over time, through reading, research, and experience, I discovered that being a deep thinker isn't a flaw. It's a different way of experiencing reality, more complex, more introspective, sometimes heavier, but often far more rewarding. In this video, we're diving deep into the psychology of people who are deep thinkers, how their minds operate, why they see the world differently, and how they can turn their introspection into their greatest strength. By the end, you'll understand not just what makes deep thinkers tick, but how to embrace your depth without letting it drown you.
Reflective, calm, and emotionally intelligent. The depth trap. Why deep thinkers feel different. Deep thinkers live in a different dimension of thought. They don't just see what is, they ask why it is. And that's both their gift and their burden. Research in cognitive psychology shows that people with higher levels of trait introspection and openness to experience exhibit stronger neural activity in the prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for abstract thought and reflection. In simple terms, their brains are wired to ask questions before they act. Imagine this. You're watching a movie. Most people enjoy the plot. A deep thinker notices the symbolism in the color of the walls, the tone of the background music, the emotional tension between two characters. You can't not see it. Your brain zooms out, analyzes, and connects. It's like running a background program all the time, searching for meaning. But here's the problem. That same gift of analysis can become a trap. Deep thinkers often overanalyze themselves into paralysis. They dissect every possible outcome, every choice, every emotion, until they feel stuck. The fix: learn to separate reflection from rumination. Reflection helps you understand. Rumination keeps you spinning. When you find yourself trapped in endless loops of what if, say to yourself, I'm collecting information, not judgments. This reframes your thinking from emotional reaction to cognitive curiosity.
Reflective, calm, and emotionally intelligent. 2. The empathy overload, feeling everything too much. Here's something most people overlook. Deep thinking and deep feeling are twins. You can't analyze human nature without feeling it. Studies on emotional intelligence suggest that highly reflective individuals tend to have stronger mirror neuron responses. They literally feel others' emotions more intensely. That's why a deep thinker can't just scroll past tragedy online. They pause, they internalize, they imagine, they care. And sometimes that care becomes heavy. A friend once told me, You think so deeply, it's like you carry the world inside your head. At the time, it didn't feel like a compliment. It felt exhausting. But empathy, when balanced, is the fuel of understanding. It drives compassion, art, innovation. The problem comes when you absorb feelings instead of observing them. So how do you manage empathy without drowning in it? The key tool here is emotional labeling. Neuroscientist Matthew Lieberman found that when people label their emotions, literally putting words to what they feel, it reduces amygdala activation and calms the nervous system. When you feel overwhelmed, say it out loud. This sadness isn't mine. This anxiety belongs to what I saw, not what I am. You separate the self from the storm.
3. The loneliness paradox. Why deep thinkers often feel isolated. Have you ever been in a group of people and felt completely alone? Deep thinkers know this feeling well. They crave connection, but not surface-level connection. They want substance, conversations that explore purpose, meaning, ideas, emotions. Yet most social settings reward small talk, not deep dialogue. It's not arrogance, it's misalignment. Their minds operate in slow, reflective waves, while the world moves fast and shallow. That creates an invisible distance. A study from the Journal of Personality and Individual Differences found that individuals with higher need for cognition, people who enjoy thinking deeply, report lower satisfaction from casual interactions, but higher satisfaction from intimate, meaningful exchanges. In short, small talk drains you, real talk energizes you. So instead of trying to fit in, curate your social world. Seek thinkers, artists, writers, people who get it. If none are nearby, read their words, watch their talks. Deep thinkers connect across time, not just geography. As the philosopher Seneca wrote, we can always choose our company, even with those long gone. 4. The inner critic. The curse of self-awareness. Deep thinkers possess an intense sense of self-awareness. They see their flaws in high definition. They notice their insecurities, patterns, and failures long before anyone else does. That's why they can seem withdrawn or self-critical. They're living in a constant dialogue with their inner judge. But self-awareness without self-compassion is like using a microscope without safety glass. You magnify everything until it cuts you. Psychologist Kristen Neff's research on self-compassion shows that people who treat themselves with kindness rather than judgment display higher resilience, motivation, and overall mental health. So how do you apply that as a deep thinker? Try thought diffusion, a concept from acceptance and commitment therapy. When a negative thought appears, instead of saying, "I'm a failure," say, "I'm having the thought that I'm a failure." Pause. It creates space. The thinker separates from the thought. You don't have to stop analyzing. You just have to stop weaponizing your insight against yourself. 5. The time illusion. Living in the past and future. Deep thinkers rarely live in the present. Their minds are time travelers. They revisit memories, reanalyze decisions, and forecast endless futures. While this makes them excellent planners and storytellers, it also traps them in what psychologists call mental time travel. Research by Daniel Gilbert from Harvard shows that people spend almost half their waking hours thinking about something other than what they're doing, and that this wandering correlates with lower happiness. Deep thinkers score even higher on that scale because their mental loops are longer and more intricate. So how can you anchor your mind? Through temporal grounding. Every time you catch yourself drifting, bring your attention to sensory detail. The warmth of the mug in your hand, the rhythm of your breath, the texture of the chair beneath you. The goal isn't to stop thinking, it's to remind the mind where the body is. Thinkers don't need to stop wandering, they just need to come home more often. 6. The creative edge, turning depth into power. Here's where it gets interesting. The same traits that make deep thinkers restless also make them remarkably creative. Their brains connect distant ideas, find metaphors in chaos, and notice beauty where others see noise. Cognitive psychologist Scott Barry Kaufman calls this divergent thinking, the ability to generate many unique ideas from one starting point. Einstein once said, "It's not that I'm so smart, it's that I stay with problems longer." That's the essence of a deep thinker. They don't give up when answers don't appear. They explore, circle back, imagine, and experiment. If you've ever felt like your mind is too crowded, here's the reframe. Those thoughts are raw material for creativity. The tool? Mind mapping. Write your central thought in the middle of a page. Say, meaning. Then branch out every idea connected to it. Work, love, mortality, purpose. Keep branching. You'll see patterns emerge. That's how scattered thinking becomes structured insight. 7. The meaning compass, finding purpose in complexity. All deep thinkers share one unshakable trait, the hunger for meaning. They can't settle for a life that just looks successful. They need it to feel significant. Viktor Frankl, the Holocaust survivor and psychiatrist, wrote in Man's Search for Meaning, "Those who have a why to live can bear almost any how." Deep thinkers live by that principle instinctively. They question, they redefine, they rebuild. But here's the twist. Meaning isn't something you find, it's something you build. It's the daily act of aligning thought with action. Start small. Choose one thing today that reflects your values. A conversation you care about, a project that lights you up, a small act of kindness you truly mean. Those are the bricks of meaning. When deep thinking meets consistent doing, it turns wisdom into impact.
Let's pull it together. Deep thinkers are not broken. They're built differently. They reflect more, feel more, question more. Their challenge is balance, reflection without rumination, empathy without exhaustion, awareness without self-criticism, and imagination without disconnection. They see life through layers, and that vision, when managed with clarity, becomes their superpower. So if you've ever felt misunderstood because your mind doesn't stop racing, remember this: your depth is not a flaw. It's your contribution. It's what lets you see patterns others miss, feel truths others avoid, and create meaning in a world obsessed with noise. Deep thinking is like diving into the ocean. The surface is easy, light, familiar, full of motion. But below that surface lies stillness, pressure, and beauty that few ever experience. Yes, the descent can be lonely. Yes, it can be dark. But those who stay long enough discover treasures of understanding no shallow swimmer ever will. As Carl Jung said, "Who looks outside, dreams. Who looks inside, awakens." If this message resonates with you, don't rush to escape your depth. Learn to breathe within it. Thinkers like you are the mirrors of humanity, the ones who help us see ourselves more clearly. So, here's my question. Which part of your depth will you embrace today? If you're ready to turn that depth into strength, stay with this channel. We explore the kind of psychology that doesn't just teach you how to think, but how to think smarter.